All right, and we are live. Natural Approach Health and Fitness. Maria Daniels here, and I have a special guest here, Megan Nolan. I'm assuming that's how you say your name. I guess I should have asked before we went live, but seems like that would be how you say it. So I was like, I'm just going for it. It's good. So we were chatting just a few minutes before we went live, and I want you to jump in and kind of introduce yourself, and then honestly, we'll just kind of dive right into just what you do and what you teach, and kind of go from there.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Great to be here with you all today. So, yes, my name is Megan Nolan, and I am a personal trainer and I teach yoga. And I live on the beautiful island of Maui. And so, if you happen to hear roosters in the background, it's totally normal. They just kind of cruise around everywhere. There's one that lives in my backyard, so you might hear him periodically. Yeah, my passion is really about helping people have the tools that they need to take care of themselves so that they can take care of their business. I work with a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, and up until last March was working with a lot of larger corporations in person here on Maui and doing yoga at work sessions, doing workshops, taking yoga breaks, all that sort of stuff. And so the transition obviously was a quick one because I had a program already called Yoga at My Desk. And so it helps people kind of lessen the impact of sitting on their desk all day, which we all do so much of, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's really what I love to do and love to share and love to make yoga accessible to more people because sometimes people can be intimidated by what they see on social media, but realizing, that it's something that you can sneak in at any point in your day, and when you do, you feel better. So that's real joy for me to share.
Absolutely. And I think some of the misnomers around yoga is that you have to be like this uber flexible, mega flexible person that can just do all the things. And I know personally, I was a personal trainer. I mean, technically I still am. You don't get like unpersonal trainered, but I don't really work as a personal trainer anymore. But I was a trainer for a long time, but I dealt mainly with, I trained MMA and, that world. So yoga was completely foreign to me. I always seen it, in the past, I always seen it as very frou frou and woo woo. And I was like, yeah, real people, lift weights and, grapple. But it's funny how life in the universe sometimes is like, oh, yeah, watch this. Because after having 7 children and after numerous injuries,
Mhm.
my body needs yoga, it needs low impact, it needs all those things. And I was super nervous when I started doing it because it was so outside of my comfort zone. But now I do it every single day. And for people that have known me through this entire journey of it, that, I'll go ahead and tell the story, which I should be embarrassed by, but I'm not. I was sent by the gym that I worked for a while, back years and years ago. They wanted me to get yoga certified, and I got kicked out of the class for laughing at all the stuff that was going on. So I got actually kicked. I didn't get certified. I actually got kicked out of the class because it was kind of one of those things that I was so uncomfortable with it. And I think
Mhm.
there are those people now that were like me that, when you fear kind of the unknown, you don't know what to expect. For me, I always went to humor. So I'd kind of like joke about it, but sometimes they avoid it. And I love that you're kind of like, taking the idea of yoga at the desk, like you mentioned, you took that idea and kind of merged it together because it was taking something. I was like, okay, this is a need. You're sitting all day, you need something to counteract that. So very tangible, real, even if it's something outside of their comfort zone right now, and you're making that something that they're able to approach in bite-sized pieces. So I super love that. I'm also super jealous that you're in Hawaii. I'm in Ohio and it's frigid here. We're excited today that it was 40 degrees and I wore sleeveless shirt and flip flops. I was like, yeah, there's a little bit of sun. So excited. So yeah, that's how that goes. But I love that. I like the super real approach to that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I can totally relate. I mean, when I first started doing yoga, I was doing it at a gym and I was like, "Oh, I liked it because it was a different form of exercise,
Mhm.
and so I was challenged by it because I'm sort of a busy mind personality. It was really hard for me to kind of drop and find that stillness. And then I had a friend who came to yoga her mom was a yoga teacher, and she's like, "This is not yoga." I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay." And so it's been funny because my journey with it has evolved quite a bit. And like, as I was saying, so when I was working with a lot of different businesses, I've taught yoga inside all of the power plants here on Maui. And you might expect that somebody who's being made to do yoga at a power plant is a very different personality than somebody who comes to a yoga studio. And so I'm out there and these guys are all like rocking their coveralls and their work boots,
Yeah.
and they haven't done anything since probably the last gym class they went to. And so it was a really interesting experience because I wanted to speak to them in a way that they felt, like we're meeting each other on the same level, and
Absolutely.
not being like fluffy woo woo conversation about it. And then was able to, lead the 20-minute session. And then a man who was up front, whom I thought was hating it the whole time because he was like the facial expressions, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, I don't know how
Yeah.
this is gonna go. And so he was the first one that came up and he was like, I don't even know if anybody's ever taught me how to breathe before. And I really just was floored. And he's like, now I know how to breathe and stretch. And I was like, I could cry right now. So it was just a
Absolutely.
beautiful experience. And like you said, sometimes people avoid it because they look at social media and they're like, well, I'm not in the Cirque du Soleil. I cannot contort myself into a pretzel.
Yeah.
But like realizing that, you can do what you can do and what you feel good with. And I love that you're integrating it now, which is awesome.
It's one of those things that you slowly, I feel part of it is, as you get older, you start to realize, okay, well, I've tried lots of new things and I've survived every single one of them, right? So it was very much that I realized that my body needed something different. It needed something not as high impact. I'd only done high impact. I'm very
Mm,
adrenaline junkie minded, and I still am, but I always have had, like, where I have always struggled. I'm an integrative nutritionist, so I've never struggled eating, eating healthy. I've never struggled with working out. But where I did struggle was resting and taking that
mm,
moment and breathing. You mentioned breathing. Breathing was never, I mean, I could breathe while I was working out, like lifting, there's certain ways you
mm,
breathe, but it's not the same. And it wasn't until that I had to that I really started slowing down and doing some yoga. Some at the beginning, it was just for stretching, for flexibility, for still trying to remain active and kind of allow my body to heal. But then it became so much more than that. It became
mm,
more about meditation and mindset. And I started to figure out that I was kind of tapping in and becoming who I was always meant to be. I know this sounds very like out there,
no, I
but
love
it's
it.
the truth.
I just
I
got
mean,
goosebumps.
yeah, I mean, it's the truth. And it's something that I think it was because it was so outside of my comfort zone. If I had never had the injuries that I had that forced me kind of forced my hand to try it, I think I really would have
Mm,
been missing out on so much because it is definitely a major, major, major part of my life on every angle now. And my kids even do it. My son, that's 11, he's autistic. He does it, and it
mm,
helps him so much.
I love that. Yeah, the thing with yoga and really any discipline is that, you kind of start and you sort of dive into the pond, if you will, and then you get in there and you're like, whoa, there's so much more to this than I expected. And I love that you're being able to kind of peel back the layers and get more and more benefits. And that's the beauty of it, right? Is like there's so much depth to it and so much application to it. And a lot of people think, okay, well, it's all good if I can like stand on one foot and do whatever. But like really what yoga is helping you do is learn to stay grounded and stay steady and stay centered amongst the like wiggles and wobbles of the poses and
Yeah,
ultimately the wiggles and wobbles of life that are always going to happen. And so it's a beautiful tool set that way.
absolutely. And as somebody who has self-diagnosed ADHD, it's really helped me on that level too. If I am really just feeling like all the things that day, um, I definitely am like, okay, I need to do yoga. Sometimes I end up doing it 2 or 3 times a day just because I need it that day. And, I love that, you're mentioning like the wiggles and wobbles because again, I think a lot of people, if they're afraid they're not going to be good at it, if they're afraid,
Mhm,
they're going to be a quote unquote failure at it, they don't try it. And, with yoga, it's one of those things I heard, I don't even remember who said it. It was some yogi master that said it, but that you never really master yoga. You just
mhm.
continue to practice it. And I think that's a big thing for people that, they're used to having this destination. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to get this, I want to get this perfected, but it's not so much a destination as it is the experience.
Yeah, 100% it is. And yeah, even like you said, the yogi masters will be the first ones to tell you that it's just practice, practice, practice. And there's no perfection in yoga and there's no like end result. I mean, the ultimate end result might be like enlightenment, but that's really not
Yeah.
achievable for
Yeah.
many people. But it's really like you said, it's the journey and it's the experience. And you're so right. Because a lot of times if we're intimidated by something, A, we might like laugh and make fun of it or not do it at all. Or we might get there and we're like, well, I sucked at that, and I
Yeah.
really like to give people the opportunity to just sort of recognize like it's called a yoga practice for a reason. And it's not called a yoga perfect. And it's like one of those things that every time you get on the mat, yoga, like you've observed, yoga kind of meets you where you're at. It's like, okay, if you just need to stretch right now it's like showing you these other layers to it. And so even if you just do it for the stretching aspect, you're still going to get the multi-layered benefits because a lot of people either know or they don't. They probably have heard like, oh, yoga is a mind, body, spirit practice. But really what we're doing by tapping into the breath is very quickly, immediately accessing well, not, I shouldn't say immediately, within 20 seconds. It's pretty quick. Immediate accessing the nervous system. And so we reset the nervous system rather quickly. And then that has effect on the whole endocrine system, all your glands, and then your immune function and your muscles and your bones and tapping into that stillness. So you're getting like spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical all in one go, which is, beautiful amount of benefits.
Absolutely. And, it's funny that I never really looked into the why of yoga because I'd already decided, oh, I don't need this, But, once I started kind of getting into it, it really makes sense, even from a scientific level, like, or at a medical level, like all the levels, you really tap into it. There is so much to learn and it's actually so intriguing. And if anybody's listening right now that have no idea, they just think, yoga is just about chanting and, doing some bendy stuff. I really suggest you really start to look at, like Megan mentioned, a lot of the physical benefits, the mental benefits. There's just so much out there that's actually based on science. So it's not just woo woo. It's based on science. So it's amazing. I do want to ask, like, how did you get started into yoga? Kind of what's your yoga journey story? Is there like, or is it just like, hey, I just wanted to try yoga, and then like you loved it, or how did that go?
Well, I've always loved movement and exercise, and so I've always been really consistent with that. And so, back when I was in my first year of university, I was a member at a gym, and of course, I was like trying to take advantage of all the things that they had available, and so I was doing all the classes, and it was I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Les Mills classes, like the
Yeah.
body pump, body flow. So it's
Yep.
a body flow class. And so it's like Tai Chi, Pilates, yoga, all sort of like intermingled together. And, in the interest of cross training and all those things, I was like, let me give this a go. And like I was mentioning earlier, my friend came to the class and she was like, no.
This isn't it. Yeah.
That's fake out yoga. Okay. You need to come with me. And I will admit to you, because like the first time I went to the class, they're using a style of breathing. So there's a constriction through the back of the throat. It kind of sounds like the ocean. So it's like kind of Darth Vader, and I was like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
because I hadn't, and it was in a like, I think it was in what's it called? Community center or something. So it was still like not, I mean, that person was trained, but it wasn't like classical yoga setting. And so eventually I got to a studio and then I just fell in love with it because the teacher that I had made it accessible to me and it wasn't like, high horsey about it. It was like, okay, let's try and see how it goes, and then, so I guess the progression to that was practicing really consistently. And then I forget how long ago that was now. Oh yeah, 2004, I moved to Hawaii. I moved to the Big Island and I was living at a yoga center. So they did volunteer trade work or work trade. So I was doing all sorts of yoga in a really beautiful setting. And then I realized how much I loved it. And at that time I became a trainer and then eventually became certified because I'm kind of the opposite to you. I can tell that you like to like at whatever point you were
Yeah.
like really wanted to work hard and have those intense
Yeah.
workouts. And I was like, I am not a trainer that wants to like push people till they throw up. I was like, want to be more nurturing and bring all the tools in. And so I saw that, that was missing in some styles, or at least for me. And so I decided to get trained in yoga so that I could bring that connection. And now I bring that all together in my sessions because there's, as we've said, there's benefits to cardio and strength training from a muscular and a bone density and all those benefits. And then there's benefits to slowing down and tapping into your breath and postural awareness and mind awareness. And so kind of weaving it all together has been my journey.
And it's so important to weave it together. I mean, you have to look at the full spectrum when you're talking about wellness. You need to pull from rest, you need to pull from motion, you need to pull from, feeding your body great nutrition and, all the things. And I think, in my experience, most people naturally gravitate towards one or two and they're pretty good at those, but then they kind of forget that the rest of them exist. And that was my experience. And now I try to make sure that I'm, tapping into, all of the sides of full wellness because it really takes all of that to make a completely healthy, well person. And I love that. And again, I wish I was on Hawaii. I would probably um, be better at kind of just absorbing the the energy from the area. Like Ohio's boring.
Mhm.
It's so boring here. I always say like they're like, where are you from? I'm like, Ohio. It's like there's nothing to talk about here. It's just like cold and gray and boring. But you're in Hawaii and I could see the sun.
I know.
The sun's
Yes, yes,
shining.
right.
I'm like looking out my window and it's like I was a little excited because the sun started to peek through a cloud today. I'm like, oh, and I'm like sleeveless shirt, flip flops, and anybody watching Ohio, you know how it is. It's like just any glimmer that there might be sun, and you're like, I'm all in because you got to take it where you can. But yeah, I
Mm,
love that. So you mentioned that you tap into kind of some of the industries you would not necessarily think of when it comes to yoga, like some of the warehouses, some of the different industrial places on the island, and I like that because again, everybody can benefit from yoga. Everybody can benefit from tapping into these different sides of things. And there's certain, I guess, quote unquote, types of people that it's like you wouldn't think of some big burly guy working in an industrial park as like doing, yoga, but really they should be, and I love that you're kind of connecting the dots to those things. How did
mm.
you get to do that? Was it just kind of like you were like, you know what, they need to do it too? Or did they invite you in? Or how did that happen?
Well, workplace wellness is a huge market on the mainland. I think it's kind of going through its fluctuations and phases like everything has. But I definitely saw how popular and how successful that was elsewhere, and nobody was doing it here. And so, as you mentioned, Hawaii has a very special energy to it. It tends to draw in people that are like spiritual or holistic or yoga teachers. The joke is like you can't throw a crystal without hitting like a massage therapist or yoga teacher or somebody that's a holistic practitioner. So
Right.
I saw the need to differentiate myself and became involved with a project. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's called the Blue Zones Project.
I've
Have you
not
heard of
heard
that?
of it.
Okay. It's actually really cool. It was a man named Dan Buettner, and he worked with National Geographic, and he noticed in his travels around the world that there's pockets in the world where people are more likely to live to be 100. And he started researching their lifestyle habits. And so they created this sort of framework to drop into areas that were struggling with more obesity, higher rates of disease, et cetera. And so that one of those is downshifting your stress level, moving more, plant-based diets. So they're all like really solid
Absolutely.
pillars. Yeah, so we became a blue zone here on Maui. And so I saw the opportunity to reach out to them because a component to it was living better at work. And so was able to connect with them. And then as these larger corporations on Maui, like Maui Electric, the County of Maui, the hospital, the college, became certified as blue zones because I was affiliated with them, then I was given the opportunity to work with all these different businesses. And so kind of was a beautiful opportunity to connect with businesses and people that, probably would have not been able to connect with before. And so it was a really fun thing. And I mean, teaching inside dentist office and banks and like all these places that I, never would have figured that I would be teaching yoga, but
Absolutely.
fun.
That's great though. Yeah. And I mean, I totally agree. We've done a lot. We, as in my wellness company, has done a lot in the past, has done a lot of like corporate wellness. And it's so important. And even though, we didn't only do solely yoga, we did incorporate some yoga because I think even if, they're wanting kind of a full spectrum, always pulling in yoga is a definite, definite, definite need. Just the stress level for most
Mm,
people in the workplace is just above and beyond. And I know I actually popped in the link that you shared with me for your workshop that you offer. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I love that. I love, well, first of all, I'm known to say secret sauce all the time. Like, I love that so much. So I was like, yeah, secret sauce. But can you talk a little bit about that? Because, it is so important, even if you only have a few minutes. Because I tell people, like, well, I don't have time in the morning. And totally, I get that. I mentioned I have like 1,000 kids. I totally get it. You don't have a lot of time. But, just get up 10 minutes earlier, just
Mhm.
take a few minutes even. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I really think that helps not only kind of set the foundation for the entire day, but honestly, not to sound kind of like way out there, but it sets the foundation for your whole life.
100% agree for sure. Yeah, so the workshop is called Master Your Morning, and it's teaching you how to create and customize a morning routine that works for you and your schedule. So we're going to talk about the 5 ingredients to help you rise and thrive. And the reasoning behind the workshop is about 5 years ago, I got to a point where I was like in adrenal fatigue and completely exhausted and anxious and depressed and was like ready to throw in the proverbial towel. And my yoga practice looked like me just laying on the mat and having a meltdown on a daily basis, And so I was like, okay, this is not good. And I was ready to sort of walk away from it all because at that point I had been training for, I always have to like recalculate the numbers in my head, training for about 12 years. And I think I was just kind of over it. And so really decided, you know what, this is my passion and it's totally my purpose and I am in the right spot, but we just need to figure out a way to make this sustainable. And so at that point, I decided to really prioritize myself so that when I was feeling good, which is the secret sauce to our success, then I'm able to show up from that version of myself rather than the like, frantic,
Yeah.
exhausted, overwhelmed version, right? We all know the difference. We all know how when we're feeling good, we're like inspired and calm and all the things. And so became really diligent about my own morning routine and made it a non-essential. And as you mentioned, like you can just take whatever time you have and create something that works for you. So you give yourself a little bit of attention. We all have so many demands on our time that if we give ourselves that window of time, whatever it is, some people have 5 minutes, some people have an hour, and really setting the tone for the whole day. And not just from a mental perspective, but doing something to energize your body. So getting your circulation going, the energy flow in your body, taking you out of the ouchy slouchy posture, as I call it. So that like working on the computer all the time, moving back into stronger alignment, which then affects your mental state and your emotional state because all those things are connected. And then it really helps you to set the tone for the whole day. And so that's what the workshop is all about. And specifically, I think my work has taken me to a point of working with business owners. So, and I mean, this is open to everybody. I'm more than welcome to share these tools with anybody that's interested. But I find specifically that's my mission is that I want to help other business owners take care of themselves so that they can take care of their business. And by doing so, it creates a ripple effect into the world because we each have our own unique passions. But we tend to give ourselves so much into everything we do that we forget that we have to keep giving to ourselves. All the analogies like you got to fill the cup up, you got to put your mask on, all the things. We really just have to get consistent with doing it, and then it starts to be easier, and then you start to feel better.
Absolutely. And, there's a lot of people you mentioned, like adrenal fatigue and all that. And I can't tell you the number of stories that I've heard like that, including my own. Again, I was good at eating correctly. I was great at, working out. I was great at those things, but I was not great at, taking that moment, pausing, relaxing, letting my mind clear. I was an anxiety ridden mess like 100% of the
Mm.
time because I was giving myself all these things that I had to do. And honestly, looking back, the list I gave myself, I would never give another person because it could
Mm-hmm.
never be done in a day, like ever. But I was holding
Mm-hmm.
myself to that. So for me, it was a complete, nervous breakdown for real that kind of brought me back to the thing that I had to be like, you know what, I need my own moments. I need to meditate. I need, to really touch and, get in touch with my own mindset, what my feelings are, tap into all of that. And, at the very beginning, I tried to do what I typically do, put myself on a rigid schedule. That does not work for my life. because then I was just
Mm.
freaking out when, at the time I had a baby. So the baby would start crying and I wouldn't get my, full workout done that I wanted to get done or whatever the case may be. So I just made it a very loose schedule of every single morning. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do yoga and meditation. And like you mentioned earlier, sometimes that looks like 5 minutes and sometimes that looks like an hour. But the only thing that I put in my mind and in my calendar is that it's going to happen. And that way,
Mm.
if I do end up with the interruptions, I do end up getting cut short, whatever, I don't feel like I've completely failed. I've still done it. I still can check that off my list that I even, was able to do the 5 minutes. Right. So I think I love that you are really about meeting people where they are, because I really think that's what people need. People, I think so many more people would get involved in the things that they should get involved with if they didn't feel like they were going to fail at it. Nobody wants to suck at something. Nobody wants to fail. I mean, it's, yes, in reality, it's a part of life, but it still sucks. It hurts. It doesn't feel good.
Mm.
So, we don't want to set ourselves up for it. But if they know that, somebody's going to meet them where they are, and yes, there's expectations, and yes, there's accountability and all the things that you need, but at the same time, it's still a soft place. It's a place of
Mhm.
understanding. I think that would allow more people to do a lot of the things that they should do. And I really love that. So, I mean, other than going to the link that I did put in the chat, and I'll share it again later too, but, it says, yes, sign me up. And it says that it's March 18th at 9 a.m.
Hawaiian time,
Hawaiian
so
time.
that'll be 2 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. So see, you're good at that. I'm not,
Well,
but
I have to.
because I was like, I don't know what that is, but Hawaiian time.
Well,
Actually,
because
I was looking
it's
at going HS. Is that Hawaiian or is that like that? Like, I don't know these things.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, so they would click that. And what does that look like? What is, once they sign up, can you kind of walk just briefly through what they would expect?
For sure. So yeah, once you get signed up, there's an invitation to come into my community. So there's a community and it's called Energized and Empowered Entrepreneurs. And again, if you're not an entrepreneur, it's totally fine. We are welcome to anybody of, any human expression of whatever that looks like for you. We are loving and, welcoming. And so then coming into that community, and there's lots of resources in there. And I do, weekly live training and just giving you tools to help you navigate the wild waves of life. And so there is also in there, and like I can give you another link too if you're like March 18th, that sounds like it's so far away and you want to get started now. I can also share with you if that's cool. It's a
Yeah.
15-minute session where you are just taking that little window of time for yourself, and we start with practicing gratitude, which is, people think is woo woo, but there's loads of
No.
science to support it, and it just feels good. Like that's the ultimate thing. Is like all of these things, we do them because we want to feel good, right? So gratitude, and then making a decision about how you want to feel for that day and setting an intention towards that. Again, there's a lot of science behind it. It can be, take it or leave it, intention setting, and then also a mini yoga practice, 15 minutes, energize your body, helping you get into that solid, strong position, tapping into that powerful energy within you. Because another program that I have is called Wake the Warrior Within. And it's really taking people to that point where they're feeling empowered, they're feeling energized, they're tapping into that like, yes, sort of energy, that warrior energy that we all have within us. And so that's, 15 minutes.
I love
Hopefully
that.
at 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so where would they go to the same link, or is there somewhere else to be able
um,
to?
let me, I can grab it real quick right here
You're
if
fine.
you want to. Of
Yeah,
course, when
because
you're
I
looking
love that.
something on the
No,
fly.
it's fine. And if you don't want to look at it right now, I can just pop it in
No,
later on.
no.
It's no big deal. But yeah, I
Okay.
love that. I mean, and I think that's a great thing. I like waking the warrior within. I like that as a
Thank
like
you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. It's called the 15-minute yoga break. Of course, when you're looking for something, you can never find
that's
it
all good.
immediately.
No, I totally get that. It's no big deal. Like I said, we're super laid back here, and you know what? It's kind of funny that I ended up deciding to do this show because my main podcast is funny enough is mainly about entrepreneurship, and we do talk a lot about mindset and relationships and obviously wellness, because I've been in the wellness world honestly longer than I have any other industry that I'm in.
Hmm.
But it I wanted to pull this off separate because I think it needs to have more focus put on it. And you mentioned that you do deal mainly with entrepreneurs, and I think that is a great focus because, you know, entrepreneurs are kind of a special breed,
A very
really,
special breed.
because they are, because I mean, you know, they're usually very driven. They're very, you know, goal oriented. They're almost always juggling not only all the hats in their business but their personal responsibilities as well. And they and I'm saying they because this was me, they're looking
Hmm.
ahead to, well, when I get this done, then, well, when this happens, then. What the problem is, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend, you know, whoever, just friend, you know, if you're only looking at the destination, you know, you may or may not make it to there before you just completely burn out. And it is a whole lot
Mm.
easier to go ahead and take care of your mindset, your health, you know, your own needs now. And you mentioned the analogy, you can't, you know, can't pour from an empty cup. You know, I can't even tell you the amount of times I'd read that meme on Facebook or and Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, don't pour from an empty cup. But I'm sitting there, I have nothing in my cup, like zero things in my cup. And I'm like, yeah, heart and that
Are you
stuff. Like,
sure?
yeah. I mean, it's like I didn't even realize it until I completely hit rock bottom. And once you're
Exactly.
at rock bottom, and I mean, and I had said rock bottom before that, but I had never truly been at rock
Mm-mm.
bottom to the point that I had been at this moment. And when there's like you can't even think straight. You can't, I mean, there's no
Mm-mm.
things you can do. And it is not worth getting to that point. You know, you take care of yourself today. You know, take that 5, 10, 15 minutes today. You know, your business, your family, everything's going to be okay. I promise. 15, if 15 minutes is going to make or break anything, then you really need to reevaluate what you're doing anyway. If that 15 minutes is going to make everything implode, then there's some processes messed up anyway.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I just can't stress that enough. So, I mean, that's how I ended up pulling off this separate wellness show because I thought it was so important to talk about because you know, you see all this, especially in the entrepreneur world, you see this like hashtag grind, hashtag hustle.
Mhm.
And
Hustle hard.
it is, you know, yeah. And it's not that those things are like bad in themselves,
No,
but it
there's
gets this
seasons to
like
things.
they are seasons. Sometimes you do have to hustle, sometimes you do have to grind.
True.
But
Yeah.
if you're only hustling, you're only grinding, you're running for force, you're not giving yourself the time to just be, to think, to breathe, you can't do that sustainabably. It just doesn't work.
No. You're gonna hit the wall really hard, and let me tell you, it's a long road back from
Yeah,
that moment, which it sounds
absolutely.
like you know very well. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, and I agree with you. Like I understand, you know, there's demands of parenthood and life and all and global situation. There's a lot going on, right? But like, if your life is so crazy that you don't have 15 minutes, then maybe we need to talk about like delegating and
Yep.
eliminating and
Yep.
like prioritizing. And there's
Yep.
strategies. And that's the thing is like, especially as entrepreneurs, we're like, ooh, what's that new strategy? Ooh,
Yep.
what's that over
Oh,
there?
yeah.
You know, and we get this squirrel like to the max.
Yep.
And again, speaks to the need to be able to focus, but it's also like, in order for you to take advantage of all those strategies and implement those strategies, you are the essential ingredient
Yep.
and you are the secret sauce in that. And so you got to take care of you too. Like, but it's so interesting because it's like it's been a bit of you know, a challenge, and that's, you know, a marketing thing and overcoming objections and all that, because so many entrepreneurs are like, no, I just don't have the time.
Yep.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, no,
Trying
I
to
get
figure it out. Yeah.
no. Well, and that's the thing, like, you know, I always tell people because people the things that I hear from people is I don't have the time, you know, I don't have the money to do that. And the thing is it's going to happen one way or another. You're going to have to deal with your health, your wellness at some point. You either do it on the front end, still
Hmm.
enjoy your life, you know, still be able to do all the things you need to do, or your health is going to be like, hello, girl or guy, you know, you're going to end up with all these health issues and you're going to end up paying for it on the back end. So the way that I look at it is I would rather pay for it on the front end and still be able to, you know, function the way that I need to function. And I'm saying pay not only financially, but pay also just with my time, because you do need to budget your time and your money, in my opinion, equally. And, you know, it's one of those things that really you need to look at it. It has to be a priority. Your wellness has to be a priority because you only have one body, as cliche as that sounds.
It's very true. It's so true. Yeah. And it's, again, let's throw another cliche in there. Like, what is it? The ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like, if you are more strategic in your choices now, then not only are you going to have more life to live because you're taking care of yourself, but you're feeling better in the process, you know? And it's like, So many of us are on this mission to achieve this level of, oh, sorry, my dog is dreaming, this
That's
level
right.
of success or this goals or this, number of followers, yada, yada, yada. But really, like, is that really what you want? Don't you want to be able to have good times with your friends and family? Don't you want to wake up feeling energized? Don't you want to feel confident, sexy in your body? Like all of those things is really, as we've been saying, it's the journey, not just the destination. So I think it's beautiful that you're sharing that message too.
Absolutely. We do have Mick Manhattan. He runs or hosts a podcast called Scene Snobs. So he's great at popping in on the shows, and he said
Awesome.
it's awesome. So it's great. And Mick, you'll have to follow Megan and all the things that she's doing. And but yeah, I think it's so important, and it can't be said enough, really, just about going ahead and really focusing that time and energy on really what do you want your life to look like, no matter what you're doing, whether it's business, whether it's whatever it is. If you close your eyes and you imagine your perfect life, what does
Hmm.
that look like? And it doesn't matter what you're envisioning. I guarantee you having your health intact is definitely going to be a part of that. So I think that's why that it's just so important. I think a lot of people end up kind of roping in the idea of wellness and with weight, and that actually is one of my pet peeves. Yes,
Hmm.
there's such things as healthy weights and whatever, but I have been, let's see, at this point, I've been a certified trainer for 20 years. I'm dating myself here, but for 20 years at this point. And I have seen lots of people that, as far as their quote unquote BMI is concerned, and that's one of my pet peeves, and I'm not going to get into here, but I hate the BMI thing. But uh,
Hmm.
I've seen plenty of people. You can line up 10 people that are, their BMI is the same. And I can tell you that it's going to be a completely different picture. It is, don't go
Hmm.
just by that. Don't go by the number on the scale. Don't go by any of those things. You need to go about, what is your body telling you? What warning lights are kind of going off? And when I say warning lights, I'm talking like headaches and muscle
Hmm.
cramps and all these things that a lot of times we're just popping a pill to cover up. That's your body screaming, saying, hello, I'm here, something is going on, and we
Hmm.
really need to pay attention to those things. And if you're taking care of your body and you're giving your body the things that it needs, the weight will be where it's supposed to be, honestly. And I don't know that, at the very beginning, when I tell people that, they kind of look at me like, but it's the truth. Your weight will be, it'll be where it's supposed to be if you're doing all the things you're supposed to be for your body.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the BMI either. I'm only 5'1" and I'm quite muscular, so I'm in a category that most people wouldn't expect.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. I've seen lots of people that, most people would consider, skinny, and they have a higher body fat percentage than a person that looks like they're bigger, because the BMI does not take into consideration the muscle mass like it should, like you mentioned. It just
Hmm.
doesn't, So that always drove me completely insane. Just so I always, used fat calipers and actually measured out myself. And I also hate, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I also hate the scales that tell you your body fat percentage. I'm
Yeah,
like,
they're
come
not very
on.
accurate.
I'm like, it's like, even if
Yeah,
it's putting a pulse out, how far is it actually going up your body? Do people tell you? Like, I
seriously.
guarantee it's like, it's crazy. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things that you can try to go through all the steps and, you know, um, worry about weighing yourself and going on this diet and that diet and whatever. But really, it's taking it back to the simple steps, taking
Hmm.
it back to getting, first of all, getting in touch with your body, which is why I believe yoga is, every single person needs to be doing yoga, like every single person, because you don't know really what you need, unless you're quiet enough to listen to your body. You're
Ooh,
quiet enough.
good one.
It's just the way that it goes. And I can say this because, like I said, I was the person that was like, I don't want to do yoga. I'm not doing yoga. To now, I preach yoga. Everybody needs to do yoga. So, it's one of those things that you just take the time, just push out all the preconceived notions about yoga, and just try it. And I love that.
Awesome. I love it too.
So, do you teach, like, how often do you teach, like, there on the island?
I only have one in-person class right now. Everything is virtual.
I wondered.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute session outside on a golf course, so it's very safe right now. But yeah, no, I teach Monday through Friday, different sessions, private sessions, group sessions. Still doing some, and a couple of minutes here. I have a session inside a corporate, what's it called? A credit union,
Mhm.
from the comfort of my living room. And so yeah, it's been a fun experience to kind of transition to the online space more so. I already had a lot of online stuff already, but the back and forth with that has been kind of fun. But yeah, 5 days a week, definitely not teaching as much as I used to. And the ultimate irony of creating an online program called Yoga at My Desk means you're on the computer a lot more. And I was
I
like, "Hey, my neck hurts so bad, in my body," because I was used to doing training and teaching a lot, and it was definitely became very obvious how important it is to have these tools for people to use. So, yeah, it's been a fun journey for sure.
I wondered how COVID had effect because honestly, I've not kept up with it. I don't watch the news. I'm pretty empathic on stuff, and I just don't like watching all the negativity. And I know you can take what you want from that, but I just have never liked that kind of stuff. I don't watch the news. I wasn't sure what was going on there in Hawaii as far as COVID numbers, and if it had shut everything down completely like it has in the States or not. That's why I was asking. But
For a time, it did, but because of our isolation, our numbers are really low, but it's still here. So it's a
yeah,
reality for sure.
and it has. I mean, it's obviously crushed a lot of industries that were used to doing a lot of things in person, including the fitness industry. And the fact that you already had some things going on online is amazing because there's a lot of
Hmm.
people. I have a PR and marketing consulting company, on the side. And there was a lot of people like March last year that were calling me freaking out because they had
Mm,
never really had to do anything digitally before, and then all of a sudden there's this big need, and it was terrifying for them, and honestly me too, because I've only got so many people that work with me, to try to get them the help that they needed. So the fact that you already had that there to kind of tap into, um, I'm sure was a saving grace for you, for sure. Mike Truitt
mhm.
mentioned he hates BMI too, so
Yeah, I saw
yeah,
that. We're
yeah.
all on the same page. It's a little outdated.
It is
Yeah.
outdated, and honestly, I think it causes a lot of problems. I don't know if they do it in Hawaii, but here in Ohio, our public school systems were doing BMI on middle school
No,
kids.
really?
They were
No,
doing it on middle school kids. My oldest daughter
I
is
don't need to be
22.
talking at that
Oh
age.
my gosh, it was bad. No. My oldest daughter's 22. She's always been tall. She's 5'11" and a half. Our family has always been more muscular built just naturally, and plus she worked out. And I can remember her coming home and bawling because
Mm,
she was given her BMI, and it said that she was obese. And I'm like, child, go look in the mirror. Do you look like you're obese? And she's like, no, I was livid.
yeah.
I was livid. And I think, again, they're probably coming from a place where they're trying to help with, childhood obesity because it is a problem. I get that. But, that is not the way to do it. And I was completely livid. Um, Kim Brown said she loves yoga and she really needs to get back to it.
Oh, yay! Perfect. Yeah, I dropped the other link for the 15-minute session. Kim, you should definitely check that one out because I think you'd like it. It's a good way to get started on that.
Is absolutely. If anybody can take 15 minutes and be able to try this out, I think it will be amazing. I'll actually put the link for this in here right now. That way you got it.
Perfect.
You can join. And yeah, I love that. Do you have anything else that you want to kind of like leave as some takeaways before we end? I'm sure we could like talk about all the things we want, some of the things that go on, but
um, well, ultimately, yeah, please check it out, Kim. I love that. Ultimately, it all comes down to how you feel, right? And so doing things to help you feel good. And ultimately, yoga comes down to breathing. And so, if all you can do is take some deep breaths, I know it's another cliche, but that sometimes when you're fired up and somebody's like, "Oh, just take a deep breath," you're like, "That's the last thing I need to do." But really, it is the first thing we need to do because it is, as we were talking about, the breathing is the direct line to the vagus nerve, which calms your nervous system rather quickly. And so, if all you can do is just a couple times a day, sit up or stand up, even better, stand up and, go into strong posture where you're like, feel like you could take on the world, get into that strong posture. So you're in a more power pose, and then just take some slow, deep breaths. That's going to take you like miles ahead of sitting and slouching and taking short, shallow breaths. So even if that's all you can do, then that's awesome. And you get a gold star for that, because that's, a really great place to start. And if you can do the 15 minutes, check out the 15-minute yoga session. And if you're like, I'm ready to have a morning routine, then definitely come and check out the Master Your Morning workshop.
I love that. And where can people, if they want to follow you and see what all that you have going on, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram and Clubhouse as I am Megan Nolan. And then my Facebook business page is called Yoga at My Desk. So it's helping people take yoga breaks through the workday.
Which is super important. That's been a big thing. Like the morning routine was probably my number one like life changer. And then adding in, just doing a little bit of stuff 5 minutes throughout the day, like if I'm working from my office, is again been kind of a game changer. So I love it. I'm going to check out your stuff
Please
because
do.
I want to. And I think everybody listening should also check it out. Again, I can't stress this enough. Like yoga will change your life. It will absolutely change your, like all aspects of your life. And I know I probably sound crazy to people that don't do yoga now, because we're like, this chick's insane, because I would have thought the same thing. But I'm telling you, like Megan mentioned, starting with breathing, really getting your body focused and actually speaking to itself. Because I mean, your mind body, that mind body connection is so important, so huge. Tap into what your body's trying to tell you. And you can't do that if you're busy all day long, you're doing all the things. So you really need to take
Mhm.
the time and just be with yourself. So I love that. Love you. And
Thank you. It's so good to connect.
yes, it was so great. And I will keep in touch with you. And if anybody wants to reach out to Megan and you can't find her, let me know and I'll make sure and put you in touch. And make
Please.
sure you check out the 15-minute yoga and then her new program that's starting in March. And it's been great having you on. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so great to be here. Definitely reach out with any questions or anything. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about yoga or any of that. So for sure, I'd love to stay in touch.
Sounds good. And every Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we come to you with our wellness portion of our show. It is in collaboration with my main podcast, Successfully Chaotic. It's NAHF Live, which is Natural Approach Health and Fitness, a live show brought to you. And thanks so much for everybody listening.